Welcome back to Talk of the Town. We are joined by one of our friends here, Tom Dowling with Aegis Planning. So, all right, we're talking today about retirement, okay? Retirement and planning, but there's something a little deeper than this in retirement planning.
Correct.
Healthcare costs.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, something that I don't think people always think about. You think about the retirement factor, but not necessarily the healthcare plan. Talk a little bit about that.
You know, it is a topic that most people don't want to think about, but it's important because
it's easy to overlook.
And it's going to cost you some money in retirement, right? So just to give a little bit of statistics, and obviously everyone's different, but an average couple at 65 in retirement, they're going to spend over $250,000 on just basic healthcare services. If you take you're a female, if you take a female, right? They're going to spend at 65, $5,500 a year just on basic healthcare services. There's more. Obviously.
It gets more specialized as you get older.
As you get older, you need more healthcare services. And by the time you're 85, that same services are going to cost over $11,000 a year. And that's because you do need more healthcare when you get older. And just healthcare costs in general are rising higher and quicker than regular inflation. So
you can't really rely on any aid coming in. You know, like there's probably not going to, you know what I mean?
Medicare.
Well, sure, but I mean,
you're gonna have to pay out of your pocket.
You're gonna have to figure out a way to sort of make this happen.
It's gonna cost you some money.
Yeah, sure. So, what's the best way to even start planning? I mean,
well, for healthcare, there's what's called the health savings account, right? Which I wrote an article about this because I think most people do not take advantage of them, and they're one of the best accounts you can have because they are tax-free. So completely tax-free. So when you contribute your money, it goes in pre-tax. It grows tax-free, and when you withdraw, you don't pay any taxes.
Wow.
As long as, and there's always caveats to everything, right? But as long as it's used for qualified medical expenses, which are most medical expenses. And as we get older, we're gonna have medical expenses, so you'll be able to use it for that. You also have to have a high deductible health plan, so without boring everyone and getting into the details, you can always look that up. But that just, the health savings plan, I think is a phenomenal way to save.
Now, is there a certain amount you can put in? Is that capped at all, or can you just?
It's per individual, right? So it depends, but you know there is a cap, and you know there's specific details to it. So we'll leave that for now because I don't want to bore the viewers. But we could always look it up.
Well, sure. So let's talk a little bit about. I mean, I'm sure you've met people who have kind of started planning and people who really don't have a plan. Is it daunting if you don't even have anything yet, or can you just like encourage people just to get going?
We can always encourage people. That's part of my job. But I'll give you a scenario that we find often, just to give a little example. So, and actually I shouldn't say it's often, but from time to time, that's a little concerning. You get a couple that comes in, husband's 65, wife's 62, right? She's retired already. He wants to retire at 65 when he starts Medicare. Then we ask the question, what health care is your wife gonna have? And they look at each other and go, I thought we planned for everything. I just didn't think of that one. Right? So there's sometimes a simple solution. You might call the husband's employer and say, do you cover my wife while I'm retired until she's 65? If yes, great.
How long is that gap usually for people? 3 years, 5 years?
I mean, you usually see it around 3 years for the gap.
That's a chunk of money.
Oh yeah. If you don't have health care, God forbid something happens in that period. So, you know, oftentimes what might happen is the husband works for another 3 years until the wife gets a job that has health care for 3 years. So the point is that you think you've thought of everything and you come in with a well thought out plan, and that could be one thing that derails it. So that one answer, that one question has changed a lot of retirement dates.
I can imagine. And so that's something that one would discuss with their employer.
Correct.
Just bring it to your employer, and that's something that people might not know to do.
If you're thinking of retiring, your wife is younger than you want to retire at 65, you ask the employer if they're going to cover your wife, or it could be opposite, right?
Right.
You're going to cover the spouse while I'm in retirement until they hit 65. And sometimes they do.
Are you seeing a lot of that, or no?
No, we see it from time to time, but more than I would expect.
Oh, that's good.
Because it seems as if it's a simple question to think of, but when you have so many questions in your mind,
it's the thing you don't realize that you needed to know until you realize you're
until
there.
It happens.
Until you're absolutely there.
So we try and avoid that.
So you're right there in Wexford, in the villages at Wexford, and we can pop in, set up an appointment.
Sure.
It's always good to see you, Tom Dowling.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will be right back with more Talk of the Town.